Carter Starachi certainly has a way of starting a conversation, and he did it yet again, talking about a potential dual meet between Oklahoma State and Penn State. He said he wants to do this dual meet this year in November at Beaver Stadium. That's where Penn State plays football. Can you imagine how epic that would be? And that got me thinking about this dual meet and how exciting it could be. And man, deep down, how awesome would it be if Penn State and Oklahoma State got on the phone? They said, you know what? This would be awesome. We should be dueling each other every year. It should be like an Oklahoma State and an Iowa type of thing where they duel each other every single year, no matter what. Like Iowa versus Iowa State, Penn State versus Oklahoma State. It just feels like that's going to be the rivalry. And if we only see them interface with each other at the NCAA tournament, it's not quite the same as that head-to-head confrontation that you get in a dual meet. And so then I was thinking, Carter Starachi, he has his own opinions on how this match would go. He says it would be 10 matches to 0. And that's not a surprising prediction coming from a four-time national champion and someone as loquacious, as we'll say, as Carter Starachi is. And I think as you look at this dual meet, there's no doubt about it, it would be exciting. It would be fireworks. And in deep down, doesn't it feel like this is the number one dual meet that fans want to see? Penn State versus Oklahoma State? I know it is for me. And even though Penn State is going to be a runaway juggernaut favorite to win NCAAs and this dual meet and any dual meet they enter next year, I can't tell you, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested and fascinated and kind of thinking Oklahoma State has some opportunity. Starting at 125, I think it would be Luke Lillidahl. I think he's wrestling right away, guys. I think he's ready to rock and roll. There's no doubt about that. And I believe, Luke believes, he's going to be wrestling year one. And he'd be taking on Troy Spratley. Now, Troy is someone, he fell in the round of 12. But another thing we know about Troy, he's been right there with some of the best guys. He's beaten All-Americans. He was right there with NCAA finalist Drake Ayala, not once but twice. Just couldn't quite get over the hump there and get that takedown. Another year of training. Remember, Troy was a freshman last year. So this will be his second year in competition. This is a guy who's had success, folk style and freestyle, really great talent, good attacks, good way to score. This is not a runaway match for true freshmen. This is a big test for a true freshman in Luke Lillidahl. And I think Spratley can absolutely go with him in this match. Now, 133, it's an interesting matchup because, well, a lot of the questions as we go through this dual meet is who's wrestling where, right? 33, right now, after seeing Nagao get injured at U23s, I'm wondering if it is going to be Braden Davis right away. He could redshirt. He wrestled last year, but it could be that we see Braden in this spot. It's Braden or Nagao. I feel certain of that, right? That's sort of obvious. And they'll be taking on, this is one of the weaker spots for Oklahoma State right now. It's probably going to be Cale Hughes, and it's not that Cale's a weak spot. He's just unproven at this point. Compared to Braden Davis, who was a one seed at NCAAs as a true freshman, and Aaron Nagao, who's been an All-American, Cale Hughes doesn't have those accolades. He did win U20 juniors, but has to give you a little bit of concern if you're an Oklahoma State fan to see him miss weight at U20 trials where he was already sitting out to the best 2 out of 3. So that is notable. And behind him, you've got someone, maybe it's Reese Whitcraft that ultimately takes the helm there and starts at 133. We don't know. But I think you favor Penn State, whether it's Nagao or Braden Davis in this matchup. 141, I think it's going to be Bo Bartlett wrestling for Penn State. And for Oklahoma State, it's Taggin Jamison. And we know two things. One, Bo Bartlett's a favorite to win this match. And two, it's probably going to be a 1 or 2 point match going into the third period. Which means if Taggin can get a late takedown, there's a great chance he could win the match. But that's a statement that's been true for many of Bo Bartlett's matches. And I'll be darned if he doesn't win 95% of those. The guy's a winner. He knows how to win matches. He's so hard to take down. And being within points, even 1 point, that's still far away from Bo Bartlett. But Taggin, there's no doubt this is going to be within the margins late in this match. That's just how Bo Bartlett has carried it throughout his career. We could see him make a jump and become more offensive. That's a possibility. But I'm not sure it's going to happen next year or not. 149 is going to be a little bit of a question mark for Oklahoma State. Could be Jordan Williams. Could be Carter Young, who was out last year redshirting with an injury. And what do we know about Carter Young? Well, he put his name on the map and in the national wrestling consciousness when he beat Seth Gross Tyler Graff, and Nashawn Garrett, all in the same weekend. 2 national champions and a 4-time All-American. All 3 of them at the World Team Trials at 61 kilograms. That's 133. But this happened while he was training not at Oklahoma State, but at Northwestern under Jimmy Kennedy. And he had great success, obviously, wrestling under Jimmy Kennedy. Well, he has a breakout performance. Kennedy and Howe and company leave Northwestern. And so Carter Young ends up transferring to Oklahoma State, and he's from Oklahoma. And he hasn't had a high level of success. But what do we know now? Well, Jimmy Kennedy is back coaching Carter Young. And could this be the recipe, the sauce to get Carter back wrestling at that high level? He was a highly anticipated entry into the national wrestling conversation after he did that in freestyle. And he was never able to quite match that level of hype. But maybe now up in weight class, back training under his former coach, Jimmy Kennedy, we could see him hit another level. And he's going to have to, because Penn State is going to be lights out at this weight class, whoever they use. It could be Shane Van Ness. My guess is it will be Shane Van Ness, who was out last year with a season-ending injury. But at that time, he was ranked 2nd in the country. He had placed 3rd as a freshman. And if it's not Shane, it's going to be the guy that placed 3rd last year, Tyler Kasek. And Tyler came out, and he was a 141 to start the year. When Van Ness went out, he went up, and man, what a year he had. He lost his first match at NCAAs. He wrestled all the way back for 3rd. He dominated Ridge Lovett, the #1 seed, the guy that most people thought was going to win a national title. Kasek beat that guy. But I don't think we're going to see him at 149. I think it's Van Ness. I think he's better suited for that weight class. Feels like Kasek may be growing. He was entered at 70 kilograms, which is 154.5 pounds for U20 trials. So it feels like he's continuing to grow. Shane Van Ness, more of a squat guy, stocky, and he might just be the better overall option than Kasek. I think he'll be the 149, and he doesn't have a red shirt, which Tyler Kasek still has. So we may not see Kasek in the lineup that next year. That's a possibility. But my guess is we see him at 157 pounds. I think that makes a lot of sense because everything we've heard, Levi Haines too big. He's too big for this weight class. But at 149, you do favor Shane Van Ness over Carter Young. There's no doubt about that. But Carter Young is slick. And a couple years ago, this would have been a match that wrestling fans would be really excited to see. 157 now, it's a question mark because I believe that Caleb Fish is planning to go 157. Now, he's been up at 165, and he's beaten some really good guys, including Julian Ramirez. We all watched Julian Ramirez beat David Carr. Caleb Fish, big move guy, transfers from Michigan State to Oklahoma State, and I think he could be the guy at 157. Now, this is, to me, the biggest question mark weight class for Penn State because the reigning national champion, Levi Haines, everyone is saying he's too big. He's going up. He's going up. We don't know how far up, but we just know up. So I think you could see Tyler Kasek move into this weight class, 157. He's clearly ready to compete at this level. We've seen him do it. Maybe we see Joe Seeley, true freshman. He ends up wrestling and they redshirt Kasek. I don't know. After his performance at U20s, does that maybe pour a little bit of water on the flames of that plan? I don't know. My guess is it will be Kasek and that Levi will move up. Now, how far up he moves is the question. And how does a Kasek versus Caleb Fish match go? Caleb Fish is a tough guy. He's got an ability to score points. I think this is a winnable match for Oklahoma State. Is he a favorite? I'm not going that far. Tyler Kasek has proven he can score in a lot of different ways, but you can't count Caleb Fish out in this matchup as we head up to 165. Transfer Cam Amin. I believe he's going to be the 65-pounder for the Cowboys this year. And he's going to have a monumental task of taking on Mitchell Messerbrick. I think it's going to be Mitchell. I don't see him coming down in weight. Maybe he does, but you look at the 165 landscape, Mitchell has dominated everyone at 165 pounds. You don't leave that weight class, right? That's my opinion at least. I think he stays at 165, and he's a runaway favorite to win and beat this man, Cam Amin. We saw him beat him, and he beat him soundly. And the big news when he majored Cam Amin was no one's ever done that. Cam Amin had never lost by a bonus point until he faced Mitchell Messerbrick. But Cam Amin, he's transferring. Could have changed his scenery, a change in training. Could that somehow help Cam Amin in his final year of collegiate competition? That remains to be seen, but it seems like it could be possible. And at minimum, you would think Cam would be able to wrestle a more defensive strategy and keep things close with Mitchell Messerschmidt, but styles and plans seem to go out the window when Mitchell's on the mat because he just creates chaos, energy, flurries, and he's a hard guy to slow down. So that's going to be a big task for Cam Amin. But coming into last year, we would have said, hey, this is probably a match. 174, another question. Do we see Levi Haines not jump not one weight but two and wrestle at 174 pounds? That feels possible. Feels like he could go up and he certainly could compete there. But he'd be taking on Dean Hamady, and I feel like Dean could be a favorite in a lot of matchups at 174 pounds, including even against Levi Haines. I think this is a winnable matchup. When you consider the neutral game of Dean Hamady and his ways to generate offense, this could be exciting, but Levi is likely the favorite here. But we don't know if he's going up this weight. And Levi, like many others, has a red shirt. He could red shirt and train and wait and build up into 174. That could be the move, right? Because I don't think while there's not another Levi Haines waiting in the wings, there's great options for Penn State at 174 because we just saw Zack Ryder go through and make another world team. He just beat Gabe Arnold in 2 straight matches. Gabe Arnold had an undefeated redshirt year last year for Iowa. Seeing Zack Ryder beat him yet again, that's got to give you confidence. And oh, by the way, you've got a guy in your room that just beat Levi Haines, Alex Facundo. Facundo could go 174, and we know he can win matches. He was very highly ranked his freshman year, and he had a down performance at NCAAs. But it doesn't mean he can't win. It doesn't mean that he can't be an All-American or someone that contends for high All-American honors, right? And I think that's possible with Facundo. He has no red shirts left. He took an Olympic red shirt last year, and at the Olympic trials is where he beat Levi Haines. Now, everyone knows that Facundo is a really, really good freestyler, but the point still remains. They both wanted to win that match, and it was Facundo that got it done. So they've got a great option with Alex at 174 pounds, and you could get him in the lineup, but you could redshirt Levi. You could use Zack Ryder year one if you feel like he's ready to win a national title. So Penn State's going to be really good there, but Dean Hamady looks like someone that could win a match against Penn State's entry at 174 pounds. Then we go up to 184. And it's another question. Who's Penn State use? It seems like now Josh Barr, right? We just watched Josh Barr make a U20 world team. He ran through a really tough bracket, beat McAnally, and then he beats Aiden Sinclair 2 times, and Aiden had teched him at U20s just a month ago. And we're seeing the maturation in Josh Barr and the ability to adjust and implement a game plan against someone as skilled as Aiden Sinclair. And so that's got to give you a little more confidence than you had a month ago in Josh Barr. But you're going to have a lot of confidence against Dustin Plott because Dustin Plott had a fantastic season last year. He made the NCAA finals, and truly he dominated his way to the NCAA finals before falling to the uber elite Parker Keckheisen, who dominated everyone all year long en route to an undefeated title. So Oklahoma State is going to be a favorite here, 184 pounds, taking on Josh Barr. I believe it's going to be Josh Barr. It could be Carter Storace, right? We could see Carter move up to 184 pounds, 197. Maybe they say, hey, Carter, you fit best at 174. Why don't you just stay there? I feel like he doesn't want to cut that weight anymore, but that could be what we see him do. I'm not sure. I'm kind of all in on the Carter Storace bulk job, go up to 197. I actually think that makes a lot of sense, and I think there's lineup synergy there for Penn State, but there's synergy in a lot of different ways because they have good wrestlers everywhere you look. So there's not a lot of bad options for the Nittany Lions. But 184, Oklahoma State is going to be a favorite over Josh Barr. But if it's Carter Storace, well, he's the favorite against basically anyone in the nation. Just ask him. But it's also true. 197, I do think it will be Carter. If it's not Carter, do you see Lucas Cochran? Do you see a true freshman, Connor Mirasola? We know he is ready to win. There's no doubt about it. Connor Mirasola could come in and contend for high All-American honors, I believe, as a true freshman. I truly think that's possible. But it feels like if you've got Carter and he wants to go up and he can get big, and we saw him wrestle at 189 at the Olympic trials, and he looked awesome. I mean, he gave Trent Hidley a really competitive match and wasn't out-horsed. So you figure, and that was with sort of an impulsive or a last-second decision to go up that weight class. He was planning to go down to 74. So it feels like he's got the strength to do it. And another guy we've seen coming down in weight, someone who wrestled at heavyweight 174 could collide at 197. That's Christian Carroll. And Carroll had he had a great run at U20 Open, and at the trials he fell just short, losing a tight match. But it still feels like Christian Carroll is going to be a contributor at 197, and seeing him make 92 kilos, which is around 197 pounds, 202, that's striking distance now. 97 kilos, not striking distance. 92, that's a different conversation, and he looked functional down there. And I think for Oklahoma State, it's you don't want to lose a year of Christian Carroll's eligibility, so you want to see him in the lineup. Luke Serber could also wrestle, but he could also redshirt. And then you have true freshman Cody Merrill coming in, who also looks like a 197-pounder. I'm wondering if they try to bulk him up and they use him in 2 years after Wyatt Hendrickson graduates. They've got options there at Oklahoma State. But 197, it's going to be Carter Starachi probably versus Christian Carroll probably. And obviously you favor Carter Starachi in that matchup. But that's a fun one. Christian Carroll's a real talent. This guy went 1-1 with Jaden Cox, a multiple world champion and Olympic bronze medalist, 3-time NCAA champion in his own right. So Christian Carroll can wrestle with high-level guys. He's not going to be a pushover at 197. I think he's a guy that can place year one for the Cowboys. And then at heavyweight, you've got Wyatt Hendrickson taking on Greg Kirkfleet. And this has been a really fun rivalry over the years. They've had good matches, and they've had dominant matches. They've had matches where Greg Kirkfleet wins by technical superiority, technical fall. We saw that at the All-Star Classic. But we also know Wyatt was injured. He was not healthy. And now Wyatt's transferred to Oklahoma State. And, man, Air Force Academy did an amazing job with Wyatt Hendrickson. But now the access to partners that he's going to have at Oklahoma State that he didn't have at Air Force, is that you have to assume that's going to help him, right? And I think that combined with health makes this closer to a toss-up match than people may realize. So that's a great dual meet. That's an exciting dual meet. And seeing Cale Sanderson go up against his pupil and a guy he trained and worked with for so long, to see those two dueling each other, doesn't that get you excited too? I want to see this matchup so far. Do you think it can be competitive at all? And should Penn State, Oklahoma State get on the phone and say, hey, let's make this an annual tradition. Penn State versus Oklahoma State in November. Lock it in. Should that happen? I think so.